Because, Sue, there's quite a lot to talk about at the moment. We'll come on to Chelsea in just a moment. But the big news this week is that talk of, for 4 seasons, in order to expand the WSL, about relegation being scrapped. And over those 4 years, I think starting the 26-2017 season, every season an extra team being added. What are your initial thoughts on this when you heard the news?
Well, I know there's been a big backlash on this, and
you can understand that.
Yeah, I'm completely with them. You know, I don't like the idea of just having no relegation. I think increasing the WSL, yes, as long as those teams are ready and they have the right finances and they're ready to come in and compete. So you need them to be competitive. But I just think not having relegation, it just means there'd be so many pointless games. You feel that, I don't know, you know footballers, you have winners and losers, don't you? So I think to not have that, it wouldn't be good for the fans that go to the game. You think that sort of lack of interest, where it's great if you're at the top and you're competing to win things, or you're looking to get into the Champions League, European spots. But if you're round at the bottom or mid-table, there would just be so many pointless games. So yes, increasing the WSL as long as the teams are ready, but I don't agree with no relegation.
And you'd lose that jeopardy. So what would be a better way then of expanding the WSL without getting rid of relegation for 4 years?
Well, we were actually talking about it. I was talking to Mike earlier, and I was saying, I don't know, maybe could you promote 2 teams and just have one getting relegated, so you're still increasing it on a gradual scale? That would be my way of doing it. Whether, I don't know, somebody in authority would say that isn't the way to do it, but I just don't like the idea of not having relegation. I just think, like you say, there's no jeopardy there.
Can I say?
Yeah, of course you can, Merce.
Because I think at the moment there is a gulf, isn't there?
There is.
Do you know what I mean? And I think because there's such a gulf from the top to the bottom, by having relegation keeps the teams at the bottom busy. Do you know what I mean? And I think, and the other important thing is, because there's such a gulf, you keep on bringing certain teams in. If they're not up to that standard, it waters it down, do you know what I mean? And I don't think that the women's game needs that. I think it needs to be a solid, more competitive league and not just the top and then the bottom. So I think they got to get that right, where the teams that have come up have got to be strong or competitive.
Absolutely.
And talking of goals, Sue, that's definitely the case at the top with Chelsea at the moment. They're 8 points clear. They win against Leicester midweek. I mean, they're sitting on 44 points at the moment. That's the most points by any team at this stage in WSL history. But are there just 1 or 2 chinks in the armour developing? Because this week, Becky Spencer's been signed on an emergency loan, the goalkeeper from Tottenham as well. Is this unbeaten record going to be harder to preserve as the injuries kick in?
I think it will. They obviously, one goalkeeper got injured. I think another one was pregnant, so they had to bring, you know, Becky Spencer in as that cover, if you like. But the fact that they're still on for the quadruple, I think Sonia Bonpasteur coming in and taking over from Emma Hayes just made that transition so smooth. And they haven't been at their best recently, you're right, but they've had injuries, they've rotated quite a bit, I think, because they're in all of these competitions. So they've maybe lacked a little bit of consistency and relationships between the two. They've got a strong squad, I think we all know that. They've probably got the best squad in the WSL, and they're certainly going to need that in the next few weeks. But I looked at the game against Leicester midweek, who made it so difficult for them, but Chelsea just have that quality if they need it, and we're able to obviously get through. And Bonpasteur's an absolute winner. And I think that's why she's been brought in. Can you go and win the Champions League? And that's clearly her
Is she taking them to new levels from what we've seen so far?
Yeah, well, if they can go and win the Champions League, of course. Emma Hayes did a brilliant job and put Chelsea in a great position, but she's now wanting to take them to that next level and go and win that. And again, if she can win the quadruple, that'd be amazing in her first season, just making it look so easy. It
would be extraordinary. They've got an odd month coming up because they've got that FA Cup quarter-final against Crystal Palace. That comes tomorrow. And then they've got 4 consecutive games against Manchester City, the League Cup final, the Champions League, the WSL as well. In terms of team selection, in terms of trying to outthink the other and not getting too familiar, it's going to be a fascinating run of games, isn't it?
It's bizarre. I think when you saw the run of fixtures, it's across 3 competitions within 12 days. They play each other 4 times. So, you know, how do you deal with that as a manager and as a player? Because it always seems strange, doesn't it, when we see a team play in the Premier League and then they play in the Cup. You know, do you rotate? Do you keep some players back? What do you do tactically? But I just think you've got 2 top quality teams there. Both have had injuries to key players, so they are missing some of those, you know, real sort of quality, especially Manchester City. They're starting to come back now, but I know some of the minutes have been monitored. And they have dropped off in form. But I just think the fact that Chelsea beat Manchester City in November, so they've got that over them. And Sonia Bonpasteur came out and said, well, I'm used to this because in France we've done that. So we've played the same team at, 3 or 4 times in quick succession. So she's got that experience, and I'm sure she'll use that. But very bizarre month, yeah, absolutely.
The thing with the big advantage there with Chelsea there is Man City they can't afford to play an under-strength team in the league game, can they?
No.
Do you know what I mean? Because they've got to get in. I mean, Chelsea, the league's virtually wrapped up, so in between that Champions League game, they can rest players, which is massive.
The luxury of the position they find themselves in. Yeah. Just one other question I want to ask you, Sue, is about the Women's World Cup competition that's been introduced. Going to run every 4 years, I think, starting in 2028. They're also introducing a Women's Champions Cup. That's going to start in 2026. Is this a good move, an exciting move for women's football, the right move?
Yeah, I think so. I think that obviously the positives are it's showing the growth of women's football and the appetite is there, that they want to do something like that. I think it's a great opportunity as a player to test yourself against some of the best teams around the world and different styles of play. It's another trophy that you could potentially win, which is something that you always want as a player. It's going to help the clubs commercially, so that finance, which is important in the women's game. But I suppose maybe something that they're going to have to get right is the scheduling, because you then worry about injuries and teams playing too much football. So as long as they get that right and it's carefully planned, I think it's a really exciting move for women's football.